Hey, welcome back. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with me. If you were here, I'd probably pour you a glass of this really good bourbon and we'd get all comfortable and have a great discussion. It's possible, maybe even likely, that you and I have met and maybe we're friends, but if we haven't met, I'd probably like you, right? People like you. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to spend a few minutes together with you. As weird as this medium is, when we started this back in the day, it was weird for me to wrap my mind around the fact that I want to talk to one person, to you, but you're not here, and there's no back and forth, and you might not see this for weeks or months or years. Anyway, I have to do a little flight of fantasy in order to make this work well, but this is a fun kind of medium for me. So this is a studio. You can tell that. This is not my living room or my garage. This is our studio. And we designed this studio to create a feeling. Drew created the color scheme, the layout of this. He created this set and this entire studio so that you can focus on our conversations. Studio is real, but it's also an illusion. There's a whole lot that goes on back there. That's about 15 feet away from me to the wall behind me. You might not be able to tell. And so there's one set right here. There's another set that the camera can shoot from here straight back. So that's a second set. It can also shoot from another angle. That turns into a third set. There's another set right there that you can't see because the camera's not pointed at it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 sets. Over there, the way we've got it set up right, there's 2 more sets on the other side of the studio over there, way back over there in the corner. And you may have seen some of our online Hilt Academy classes that are shot from that angle. There are 6 different desk tables, workstations set up over here. There's a great big glass whiteboard way back there in the corner. Behind the camera right there, maybe the most important part of all, there's a liquor cabinet and a refrigerator and a microwave. But what you see right here is just this. It's an illusion, but it's designed, it's set up to get you to be able to just relax and focus on what we're going to be talking about and what we share with you. Our minds work a little bit like that. We are able to select what we see and what we hear and then quickly weave it into a version of reality to fit our needs for the moment. It's as though we're walking around inside of a studio and only picking to look at one set. Maybe we know there's other sets, maybe we know it's a studio, maybe we don't, but we don't worry about that too much because our mind is able to create a version of reality to meet our need. Without discipline and without courage, we rarely experience the world as it actually is. We make up studios in our mind. We make up models, and that's how we experience the world. It's like we're walking around in self-made optical illusions, kind of like this studio. But then sometimes we think that's reality, not a representation of reality. But if you're here with me, or you're sitting right here watching this video with me, you're probably somebody who is trying to influence other people to do great things. You might be a leader or a manager or a supervisor or maybe all 3 simultaneously. And you've probably figured out that leadership is hard, right? You don't whine about it. You don't talk about it all the time. But you remember that leaders see some part of the future and you're compelled by it. You see what could be, what should be, and you describe that future to others who are also, most of them, compelled by it too. Maybe they change their behavior today to get to that future. So you know that leaders think backwards about time, that you and I as leaders see an outcome or a result that we want to be able to have, and we describe that, and then that description of that results in a change in behavior. Our change in behavior and a change in behavior of the people around us. And when we describe it well enough, it results in a change in values and a change in habits and disciplines and even these mental models, these constructs we have in our mind about what reality is and who we are in that reality. So no change, no leadership. But you get all that. You get all that. Leadership is hard. Sometimes we make it a lot harder than it needs to be. One of the ways we do that is by letting our emotions distort reality. Emotional distortion is a thing. It occurs when we're confronted with reality and then we perceive what we are confronted with as a huge threat or maybe a huge reward, and then we have strong emotional reactions about it. Having an emotional reaction is totally normal. Emotions are the result of movement within our body. It's the result of neurological movement within our body, of muscle movement within our body, movement in blood pressure, and all sorts of movement within our body. We don't need to get down into that too much, but that's what creates emotions in us. And those emotions make us want to move. And that's all good, and that's all normal, and that's the way we're built. That's the way we're designed. So, to quote the philosopher Ron Popeil, but wait, there's more. When the emotion is strong enough, and when it's unmanaged, it can create, and usually does, emotional distortion. It distorts what we experience and what we think that experience means now and into the future. And it makes us feel like, finally, I'm seeing things the way they really are. But we're living in a distorted, incomplete, cartoon-like state. And when we're in that state, we don't know it. We feel like we finally see things clearly. That'd be fine. That'd be fine if we didn't do anything with it. It wouldn't be a problem if we didn't make really bad decisions because of it, or if we didn't dramatically affect other people and their careers and their lives and their decisions because of it. But we do. The emotionally distorted leader has a huge impact on those he or she leads. You've seen it, haven't you? You've experienced it, haven't you? You've created this impact, or maybe your friend has created this impact. Maybe there's a new idea in a staff meeting that comes up and there's an emotional distortion that happens around it. Maybe there's a change in a plan, or a new person joins the team and we don't like them, or we like them a lot. Maybe there's a delay in a project that you didn't expect, or a conflict with someone who matters a lot to you that you have a hard time resolving. Maybe there's some dismal forecast that comes your way, and on and on and on. All those are opportunity for emotional distortion. Whenever you and I have strong emotions, whether it's a strong threat-based emotion or a strong reward-based emotion, we're prone to this emotional distortion. It's almost as though we're seeing things clearly now, and then we have a strong emotional distortion, which is like putting on fisheye lenses, and then we think, oh, now I see things the way they really are. The world has been lying to me, or something like that, okay? No surprise to you, but all the research about emotions suggests that negative or threat-based emotions like worry and anxiety and fear and loneliness and all of that, they create greater and longer-lasting distortion in our minds, distorting reality, than do the positive or reward-based emotions. Negative emotions that are distorted in leaders and communicated in a group are actually pretty powerful. Since you're a leader, your emotions have a greater impact on those who you lead and those who do not have your responsibility than theirs do. It's almost as though you create an emotional contagion. And the emotions that are negative last measurably quite a bit longer in the teams and the people you impact than the emotions that are very positive have, and the distortion that goes with it. So, lean in here with me. Refill your coffee if you need to. We live in a time where it seems that our relational and our emotional development as a society is actually regressing. With all the amazing advances around us, technologically, economically, sometimes even socially, we're swimming in a sea of people who are less mature relationally and therefore emotionally than we were a generation ago. Edwin Friedman, in his really brilliant book entitled A Failure of Nerve, Leadership in the Age of the Quick Fix, describes this vicious cycle that begins with emotionally immature, emotionally distorted leaders who then, by their presence, by their behavior, fuel a reactivity and an anxiety in those people that they lead. That then causes this herd stampede mentality where we bunch together and start running because we're nervous and afraid and thinking the same way and doing irrational things. That eventually, well, quite quickly actually, results in blaming others and not taking personal responsibility for where I am in my own emotional and behavioral and societal state. We start blaming others like that. We then end up doing that a few times. That leaves us feeling like victims. And victims feel powerless and they crave an escape from that awful feeling. So victims who are afraid are easily fall prey, I guess, to addictive behaviors and to manipulative fear strategies on the part of our fear industrial complex. They then, because they're trying to escape the icky feeling of that stampede of fear, they then put pressure back on leaders to fix it and fix it now. And if those leaders are emotionally immature themselves and live in an emotionally distorted state themselves, they will fuel that cycle again. And now we have a vicious cycle that we have arrived at after decades of practice in our society. All of that because you and I, as leaders, were unable to manage our own anxiety brought on by emotional distortion. Well, here's the good news. You don't have to be one of those anxious, fearful, twitchy leaders. How can you make sure that you are, in the words of Friedman, a non-anxious presence? How can you not fall prey to that cycle that begins with emotional distortion and reactivity, especially if you personally are feeling threatened? Well, I got 7 thoughts here. I probably have 77 thoughts, but this is YouTube and you don't have a lot of time and neither do I. So I got 7 thoughts here. So let's go through them quickly. 1, watch for your own emotional distortion. You can actually feel it. You can feel the threat response in your body. Pay attention to your body. Your body will tell you you're having a threat response. You can feel that low-grade or high-level anxiety because you know that it hits us first physically. We are feeling beings that think, not thinking beings that feel. We do both, but the feeling happens faster and first. And you know that it hits your body first. And anxiety is like our fear switch, which we're all created with, has been stuck in the on position. We're always afraid, always afraid. Second thought, keep track. You're probably going to need to write this down. Keep track. How long has this fear switch, this anxiety, this threat response been going on? How long has it been going on? Do I feel it about more than 1 or 2 themes? Do I feel it all the time about a bunch of themes? Write down, think about it. What do I do when I feel that threat response, that anxiety, that emotional distortion begin to set in? What do I do? I mean, get really granular. What do you do to try to contend with that feeling? Does that behavior make things worse in order to feel better right now? We call that a maladaptive behavior, and that is the heart and core, the first step that fuels our addictive behaviors. Here's the 3rd out of 7 thoughts. Ask and answer this question. What am I afraid of? Get very specific. Write it down. That act alone will be incredibly powerful. Here's the 4th idea. Look hard at reality. Look hard at reality. Become a fan of reality. My friend Tim says reality is an acquired taste. Write about the way things really are, not in a distorted state, but what are the facts? What's the data? What's actually happening? Don't write always and never. Write Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday instead of every day, like that kind of thing. Write about reality. Write about your actual experience and get wisdom from others. Be careful who you listen to, right? You can listen to people who will fuel your emotionally distorted state for their own gain, or they're already emotionally distorted and they need comfort of you being just as crazy as they are. So go to the source too. Have direct experience, have direct conversations, look at the source, get hard facts wherever possible. Here's the fifth idea. Remind yourself of your purpose or your mission. Why are you doing what you're doing in your team, in your life, in your organization? Get at the why that drives the what. Often our anxious, emotionally distorted state arises right out of having the wrong why. Here's the sixth idea. Remind yourself of what matters. And the seventh idea, move. Movement is medicine. Get out and move. The more you do that, the less emotionally distorted you will be. You can do this. You can be disciplined about this. You can regularly get out of this sea of immaturity and of high anxiety and of emotional distortion in which we're all swimming. You can get out of that sea for hours at a time or days at a time, if that's even possible. You can disconnect. Empty, needy, fragile, anxious leaders in an emotionally distorted state create empty, needy, fragile, anxious teams and organizations and cultures. And those cultures feed on the systems around them like hurricanes to stay in that emotionally distorted state. But that's not you, right? That's not you. You're doing important work. You're doing the hard work of managing your own emotional distortion so you see how things really are, and therefore you can lead. You know what? We need you to lead. We need you to be successful. We really need you to become, as Friedman puts it, a non-anxious presence as a leader. You got this. Thanks for spending time with me. Here's to you. Remember, if you like this stuff, if this is worthwhile to you, take a hot second and subscribe. And maybe share it with somebody else. Click that bell too if that pops up for you. That way you'll know whenever I'm going to sip some more bourbon and visit with you about another topic. You got this. Take care.